Put nine. Hang on a second.
1990.
Right.
September the 19th, 1995. Judit Abelesz. The interviewer is Sharon Tyler, and the interview is being done in London, England, and the language is English.
My name is Sharon Tyler. I'm conducting an interview with Judit Abelesz. It's Tuesday the 19th of September and we're in London, England.
Okay, here we go.
Please tell me and spell your name.
Judit Abelesz, A-B-E-L-E-S-Z.
Thank you. And your name at birth.
Friedman, F-R-I-E-D-M-A-N-N.
Thank you. Were you known by any other names?
No.
Okay. Your date of birth.
The 30th of April, 1936.
And your age now?
59.
And the city and country of your birth.
It's Hungary and Budapest.
You were born in 1936. What are your earliest memories of your life in Budapest?
Being at home with my mother. My father went to the army in 1939. I don't remember him being at home a lot. So really being with my mother most of the time. He used to come home weekends or on and off, but really it was my mother and him, and her, my mother and myself, sorry.
Where did your father go with the...
Well, he was in the army, he was in the Hungarian army at the time, and I don't know the places where he was. From 1939 onwards he was in the army.
Mm. And you were the oldest of your family?
Yeah, we are three. I am the oldest, and I have a brother who is just over 5 years younger than me, and then one who was born after the war.
Right. So he was your second brother. What was his name?
Erwin.
And he was born in 1941?
He was born in 1941, yes, that's right, yeah.
Okay. So when you remember your mother, you and your mother, what do you remember? Do you remember any specific things?
Well, yes, there are quite a lot of things to remember. You see, my parents had a business. They had a shop, a poultry shop, really, and we lived in Buda. And my mother used to work there, so I was with her most of the time in that shop. And also going through different phases, difficulties, the hardships. Then my younger brother was born, and the schooling, I went to school, and the synagogue I used to go to on Friday nights. The shul that my father used to go to around the corner, some of the friends, the place where we used to live.
What do you remember about the place where you used to live? What was it like?
Well, it was in a big apartment building, not very far from the shop, also in Buda. And it was not a large flat, it was a smaller size flat, about 2 rooms, kitchen. And it was a little bit higher than the ground floor. It's about 1 floor higher. Not we didn't used to call it the first floor. It was in between, half floor we used to say it in Hungary, or the higher ground floor. And the concierge used to live below us, the one who looked after the house. That's where we lived before the war. It was a very depressing place. I remember going up on the staircase and into the corridor. It was so dark, and And there was a lady next door to us who was so frightening, didn't like to live there.
What was frightening about her?
I don't know, just, although she was always smiling and kind, but don't remember her as a nice person, even though, because after the war, their experiences is we gave her certain things to look after, and she never gave anything back when we came back, and it was altogether a very depressing place.
What other things do you remember about your early childhood?
I remember my first day at school, when I went to school. My teacher, he was a man, a lovely man. The school was a very small school, and in fact it was started the year when I started school, so there was only one class. And the rabbi of that shul, where I used to go, his daughter was the same age as mine, and we went to the same school. And I think the idea was to start a school because of those few young children who lived in the vicinity, because this was the only Jewish school really in Buda.
What was it called?
I don't know, don't remember the specific name. But there was a very big Jewish school in Pest, but that was far away from us, and we were very young, so it was very, very convenient for me to go to that school.
And you said you remember the first day.
Yeah, it was very exciting. It was very nice, and it was we had a very good teacher, and he somehow. It was very nice to go to school. It was very exciting. That's what I remember. My mother took me, and I remember she was excited taking me to school. Yeah.
So what year are we talking about that you started school?
I think it must have been 1943. I was 6.
So up until that time you were at home with your mother?
Yeah.
Was there any kind of nursery or anything that you went to?
I don't remember. Don't remember. I always was with my mother.
What do you remember about your Jewish life and family life and how?
Well, we were very Orthodox, and we had this poultry shop was a very Orthodox shop as well, and I remember people who coming to the shop and taking, buying things from us. I remember I don't know what your purpose you want to ask. Actually, can you my mind was a bit astray.
They were asking about what else you remembered about your childhood, about your Jewish life.
And what's my Jewish life?
Was it just a poultry? It didn't sell other meat. It was only chicken.
No, only chicken. Yes, and yes, we also had they used to shochet them by us in the back. That was a horrible part of it. I didn't like it. I remember it was very frightening, and I used to get very scared. I didn't like that. I remember that. My grandparents used to live in Pest, and we used to go there very often. And my Jewish life was it's like my second nature. It was it was acceptable. We were very Orthodox, and we kept Shabbos, and the Shabbos the shop was closed, and we had very good food and
chicken.
And we had
would you have chicken on Friday night?
Yeah, and we had chicken. We had fish, and all the traditional food. And my mother always had her hair covered, and it was a very traditional Jewish life that we led. Of course,
presumably, and was there a Jewish area, particularly of Budapest, that you lived in, or?
No, it was not a Jewish area. The Jewish area was in Pest, but it was an Orthodox Jewish shop where every Jew came in who wanted to keep kosher. So people did come in and buy from us because it was a kind of a necessity.
And was most of your life was spent with Jewish people then?
Yes. I mean, I did have some experiences with non-Jews. We had our neighbors or other people, but yes, the most experiences with Jews, yes.
And on Shabbat on Friday nights, was it with your grandparents and the extended family, or was it with your...
When we, in the beginning, I mean, when we were in Buda, then it was only the nuclear family, a very close family. But when we were in, in Pest, then by my grandmother, then yes, there was a extended family.
So when did you move? You moved?
Well, we moved to Pest during the war, after the war. I mean, during the war when the Germans came in, because they were all concentrated into Jewish houses and then to the ghettos. So we went over to my grandparents, and my grandparents also moved to a Jewish house, with a yellow star on, and then my mother, my brother, and my grandparents, and one of my uncles were in one of those Jewish houses which had a yellow star on, so it really called a yellow star house.
Were you with other families too, or was just those people?
At that time, no, there were other families. All Jews came to live in one sort of house. That was the first thing that the Germans did, you see, when they came into Hungary. They concentrated us in different, in certain houses. And then they would have put us into the ghetto. That was the procedure.
So what is this 1944?
Yeah, they came into Budapest on the 19th of March 1944. That day I remember very well. It was a horrible day. I remember that the aeroplanes flying so low, and my mother was hysterical. She was in bed. She was crying, and she was hysterical. The people from next door the neighbors came to calm her down. She was altogether a hysterical woman, because she was so scared, and so was I. It was a very scary time, and I think not everybody realized, but I think my mother was very scared. She knew what went on in Europe, and even I remember this saying that when the Jews were deported from Poland, from Czechoslovakia, they went through Hungary, and they came there with stopped in Budapest and used to go to the station to take food to the people who were in the wagons. And so she used to say, this is the end of us now, because we were the last station, really. Hungary was the last station for the Germans. This is the end of us. And she was just out. She wanted to survive. She wanted to save her life. She was hysterical.
Very frightening time.
It was a very frightening time, yes. Before that, also, with the bombs, because Budapest was bombed before the Germans came in. So I remember going down to the shelters in the middle of the night.
The sirens under your building?
It was under the building, yeah. So we went down to the shelters and sitting there waiting for the siren to go, to come up again. It was a horrible time.
Before 1944, when the Germans came, were you aware of any, as a young child, were you aware of what was going on, or the sort of hardships that were around, or the...
I was aware of the anti-Semitism and the fear, because my father being away, and he used to come home with the stories, and it was very anti-Semitic, a very anti-Semitic atmosphere in the whole of Budapest. Everywhere you could hear that this Jew has been beaten up, or once, in fact, someone caught my grandfather's beard and tore out a part of his beard, or you go on the bus or on a public transport, they tell you, you Jew, you get up, and they abuse you, they use humiliating language towards you. Of course, it was a very scary and a very horrible time. It was, you felt humiliated, like you are nothing, you are, so yes, we felt it all the time, and it was ingrained in us, and therefore we try to protect ourselves, and as much as we can.
And how would you do that?
Well, it was really very difficult. You could do just what you could do, because and it depends when the Germans came. After the Germans came in, it was a different era. beforehand. Yes, we didn't go out late at night. We didn't go on the street on our own. We closed the shop very early, and we closed ourselves in the house so that, you know, we just protected us and ourselves as much as we could. That we shouldn't be, you know, exposed to dangers and things like that.
What do you remember about when your brother was born?
When my brother was born, I was 5 when my brother was born. Well, it was a very happy time because I had a little boy, and I can't remember very much about, you know, just that.
It was a
That
good
he
feeling
came.
for you.
It was a nice, yes, having a. Although I thought always that my mother is going to have a little girl, but, you know, but it was a boy. So, and we had a Brit Milah, and the family came together. Yes, it was a very nice time. They were very happy.
So you tried to maintain as much of normality as possible despite all these things that were going on.
Well, yes, we tried, yes. I mean, we lived a comparatively normal life until the Germans came in, except that my father was away. He used to come home, as I say, quite often. And then his status also changed because he was first in the Hungarian army, but then he was in... it was like a labor camp, a Jewish labor camp for Jewish men. So they were not in the Hungarian army anymore. They were in the Jewish labor camp.
What, do you know what
so they
it's
were
called?
stationed different. Labor camp. They called it munkaszolgálat, which is labor camp, labor service, actually, to be precise. And yeah, that's how I remember.
So until the Germans came, it was... You said you lived a relatively normal life.
Relatively.
Did you know, again, because of your age, were you aware of what was happening to the Jewish people elsewhere?
No, I personally not. I only knew that that we were humiliated, and I only knew that they wanted us out. I remember once they were saying that you are a Jew, go to Palestine, and what are you doing here? And I felt the hatred. We felt it very much. But what went on in the larger, no, we didn't know. And even, you know, when we were liberated and months or just after, we heard what went on in Auschwitz and in all these extermination camps, we just couldn't believe it. It was something so, we just couldn't believe it. No, we didn't know exactly what's going on. We knew that Jews were killed, we knew that they want to kill us, and that's what we knew, but we didn't know anymore what actually happened.
Not the extent of what was
Not the extent of what happened, yeah.
Apart from the poultry business, did your family have other interests and occupations?
Yeah, my father was a chazan. He had a very nice voice, and he cultivated his voice. And before the war, he was doing it as a hobby. So, and my mother was very proud of him, of course. And yeah, that was his hobby. My mother was full-time busy with the business and the home and us. So no, and my father. She idolized him.
Did she like painting? Did she?
Yeah, she did, but that was later.
That came later. Yeah. So your father did the chazan, was chazan as a volunteer before the...
Yeah, on those voluntary basis. After the war, he used it as a profession.
And was there a lot of singing in your family? I mean,
yes.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, that I remember, yes. There was a lot of singing, opera singing and chazanut singing. And oh yes, that was part of our life, yeah. We grew up with it.
And you said your mother later developed an interest in painting. It sounds like there were some very creative activities going on in your home.
Well, it was only later on in her life when she became older, after I was married. It was not, you know, she just took it up as an interest because she had to do something, and she liked it, and she tried to develop it. Just that, you know, didn't go very far, but just a little bit.
And what were your interests as a child? What did you like
As a
doing?
child, well, I liked sport very much, and that's what my swimming. I used to